So I would just say like name, age, and any other information you think is pertinent.
My name is Daniel Sandoval. I am from Mexico. I was born there and I came over when I was 1, and I am currently 26 years old. Being Latino in... Oh, this is hard. Being a Mexican, first generation, born and, raised out here. My parents were the first of like my family to come over here and bring me with them because I was the firstborn. So I came over here when I was 1. I grew up knowing Spanish, and I didn't learn English until I was like in the 1st grade. I had an accent for most of my life, and out here you get made fun of for that. Kids like to pick on you when you're different, and having an accent is different. And so they would like ask me where I was from and why am I here, stuff like that. And it always made me feel different, like I didn't belong. This is hard. I never like thought about like myself like that, like I just kind of dealt with it and didn't like think like, oh, I'm special for that, because so many people go through it. It's like it's just part of life for us. We're just used to it.
Yeah.
And some people take it more personal than others. I don't. Not because like it doesn't offend me, just because I just move on. Like I ignore it. We live in a society where, we're the minority. Like we don't belong here. Mm-hmm. Like we're like, this is for us is like a gift. Like, oh, we're lucky to be here. Like we don't deserve to be here. Stuff like that. Some people say, if you don't like it, go back. Mm-hmm. Like if you're here, you have to do it the right way. You have to go through the process of getting your papers and all that stuff. We have to work a lot harder, to get a spot where others would otherwise just kind of, yeah. And, yeah. If I were to visit Mexico, to go to my hometown and visit my family, my Spanish isn't as good as it used to be because it's kind of broken now because I just kind of grew out of it. I don't speak Spanish as much anymore because I don't have to. So when I go back, and like they hear my Spanish, they're like, oh, like America did this to you, like you're trying to be some white boy now. That's not true. Like it's just, that's where I live. Yeah. If I wanted to come back, I could, but I have it good out here. It feels like you have to like kind of pick and commit to one, otherwise it just feels like a weird in between. You don't feel like fully accepted by either side. For example, I say like, oh, I don't like spicy food. Like, oh, you're Mexican, you don't like spicy food, you don't like tequila. I think that's just a general statement where like it's just kind of made up. Like one time at the DMV, when I was looking for a parking spot, this lady was leaving her spot and started telling me in Spanish, trying to speak in Spanish, that spot was open, and I just looked at her, I'm like, okay, thank you. She just looked at me all shocked, like, wow, I'm surprised he knew Spanish or English. Oh, you're not really Mexican. Like, you don't do that? Like, you don't like boots and horses? Okay. That doesn't make any sense, but sure. Use the general blanket of like, oh, if you're this, then all this applies to you. They feel confused by it. Like they can't generalize me. Yeah, no, it does feel that way. Like they're like, oh, you're going to school, you think you're better than us. Like you're over here, hanging out with them, working for them, serving them drinks. Like it's just kind of where I ended up, and I like it, But then when I'm there, I get the same thing. Like there's a lot of white people there, not a lot of colored people at that club. A lot of time it just feels like, I don't know if you've ever heard of imposter syndrome. Like it feels like I don't belong there. Like I don't deserve to be there. Like not that I didn't work for it, just like I feel like I'm being looked at. Like, oh, this private club has a Mexican bartender, It's a shitty feeling. It feels like I have to try harder. Whenever like the subtle racist jokes come out, I just kind of have to laugh about it and like move on. And what do you want to drink? I can't really, not that I want to fight back. It's just people like that they're set in stone, They're not going to change their mind about that stuff. So they're just going to continue doing it. And like I said, if you just kind of laugh about it, it takes that power away from them. They're like, oh, it doesn't bug him. He doesn't care. Especially at a job where you don't want to risk doing something that'll potentially get you fired.
All right, so do your name and then like...
As a recording?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you want me to look into the camera, or do you want me to look at you? Or are you doing it like interview style? My name is Blake Isaiah. I'm 24 years old. I am half Filipino, a quarter German, and a quarter Russian. My experience with discrimination is a little different. Just by looking at me, most people assume that I'm Asian. And that's not true. I'm Filipino, half Filipino. But at the same time, most people assume that Filipinos are Asian, which also isn't true. Filipinos are Pacific Islanders, and probably the farthest thing from being Asian. They are closer to Hispanic blood than they are to anything related to Asian blood. So most of my life, anytime I have faced discrimination, it's for being Asian. I'm not Asian, I'm Filipino. So if somebody really wanted to insult me and be racist to me, they wouldn't know how, because they know how to say very, sensitive stuff to Asians. They try to get under my skin, or they try to make jokes, whether it's harmless or not. People have always tried to make Asian jokes, and, most of the time it's like, I just go along with it because I'm really not insulted, because they don't really know how to insult me. It doesn't really bother me that much. There is a way to be racist to Filipinos. Most of the racism towards Filipinos comes from Filipinos. It's really an internal thing. Filipinos have a big way of judging their own skin color. It's generally considered, if you're Filipino, if you have darker skin, you're seen as less than Filipinos with lighter skin. Me being half white, having fairer skin, I'm usually looked up on, in Filipino communities because I have lighter skin. The Filipinos really take their skin color seriously, and they praise people who are half white and half Filipino. While it is looked down upon to have darker skin in Filipino culture, they're not really serious about it at the same time. They're generally a lot more joking about these things, and they think that it's okay because they're Filipino. A lot of Filipinos identify themselves as Asian, so it's kind of, funny that not even Filipinos really know how to identify themselves. A lot of people that I know, acquaintances and friends, who don't know me as well as my closer friends, they think that I'm Asian, and I make jokes all the time. It's like, I can do this because I'm Asian, because it's easier, than to explain to somebody that I'm Filipino, and, what makes that unique, and what things, being Filipino is classified as. Because when you think Filipino, there doesn't really come with a racist subtext. There are plenty of stereotypes that go with, being Asian, being Mexican, being black, being white even. Filipinos don't really have that, because so much of the time Filipinos are just seen as Asians, so they just kind of get lumped into the same racial slurs and derogatory comments as Asians do. And I think that does offend a lot of Filipinos, and they do get defensive about that. There's nothing wrong with being Asian. But when there's, a history behind, being Filipino, and things that your family has struggled with in its history, to have all of that to just be brushed aside by, oh, you're Asian. It kind of erases an identity of a culture that the history of. Someone can so easily, in a sense, delete that identity of you just by calling you Asian in a derogatory way. I think that people do it because jokingly harassing somebody for being Asian, I think, is one of the easier things to do, because Asians don't really have a tendency to get mad about it all that often. They make a lot of jokes about it themselves. So I think that it can be a lot easier for them to just take it and have it be a lot easier, especially being Filipino. I think that it's easier for people to lump us in than to actually try to understand what being Filipino is. One thing that I've experienced kind of recently with all of this COVID stuff is, me looking Asian and people thinking that I'm Asian. People have at times been more wary around me, especially when all of this was started. There were lots of instances where I had to go to meetings and my white boss would shake people's hands as they would come in, and then they would turn and try to fist bump me instead, not wanting to shake my hand. And I'm not pointing fingers, but it's pretty clear, why people would do that with me instead of my boss, who is obviously white. I haven't experienced too much backlash, but I've seen it affect a lot of people who are Asian, and it concerns me that that could ever happen to me. I feel proud of my Filipino roots because of my grandparents and my great-grandparents, and my mother. My mother's Filipino, my dad is white. My grandfather was in the Philippines during World War II, during the Japanese occupation of the Philippines, and he survived along with my grandmother, and both were able to escape once the Americans came back to liberate the Philippines. A lot of my family that I never knew and will never know were killed during the invasion of the Philippines by the Japanese. My grandfather watched his brother shot and bayoneted when he tried to escape the Bataan Death March. I think that my family has gone through a lot, and they came here, worked hard, and became successful. I had my mom raised me, and yeah, I think I would say I am proud of being Filipino. I'm proud that I have that culture in me.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's already going. Like, we've just had an entire conversation.
You think might be
My name and my age?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna piss my mom off right now. Because my mom hates the fact that I tell my age, because it tells her age.
Okay.
So my name is Camille Moore. I'm 29 years old, and I'm an assistant service director. So I would say that for me, like personally, most of my discrimination actually came through my career, not necessarily like me like walking down the street. Not to say that that doesn't happen, but sometimes microaggression is harder to tell when you're just like a kid and you think someone's like trying to tell you something nice and really they're trying to tell you something racist and you don't really bling.
I think the disassociation between like my name and how my name is spelled a lot of times, that's also one of the things, because my name is actually, the way my name is spelled is Middle Eastern. They assume that it's a male name. I started out in country clubs, like when I first in college, like my first job in college was a banquet server. I pretty much worked my way up through there. So one of the first times I was applying for a management position, I've never had this question asked to me. So on the phone, I guess it was his assistant that talked to me and was like, "Oh my gosh, your resume matches what we've been looking for. Perfect. You're really nice. And I can't wait for you to come in." And right when I come in and they call my name and he's looking for someone else. And I was like, no, like, that's me. And we get into the room and the first thing he asks is, "What do you even know about golf?" And I was kind of like,
But it's food and beverage.
it's kind of one of those things where they're looking and he's looking at anything to discredit what I had to say, because on the phone, this lady says my resume is perfect. Passing it along, my resume is perfect. But when you face-to-face interview and you're like associating the person with the resume, a lot of times that's where I probably received like, "How old are you?" or
Hey, person.
then the questions are less about the actual job itself and more about other things.
Wasn't the drive kind of far? What do you know about golf? Are you even going to be able to have a conversation with these people? I've been working in country clubs for about like 6 years now, so like if you want to dial that back and realize that that part of my resume, you're kind of like totally overstepping.
The root of like culinary arts in general is not built.
It's not built for women. Definitely not built for black women. Like, they did not have black women in mind, women at all, but then to like throw that in the mix, they did not have that in mind when they were saying this is supposed to be our chef. Yeah, I'm like multi-video area. I'm having a family Zoom meeting about racism and how we're all doing right now in the middle of quarantine while having a discussion about discrimination. Are they gone? Oh, that's why you came in here. Cut. Okay, so going back to you, I would also say that moving up wise is also a big thing for me. I had to be willing to take a step down in order to get a promotion and go and move up.
Whereas I've had people that I am more qualified, but that I know, interview for a very similar job in the same area and not had to have gone through as many hoops as I had. Literally, me and the same guy got hired in the same company. The difference would have been he got to choose where he was going to work. I did not. I was stuck in Utah, and the first question my supervisor asked was, why are you in Utah and not in California, closer to your family? And I was like, I don't know, this is where they place me. And they're like, well, they usually place managers in training like with their families, like as close to their family as humanly possible. I ended up going from Reno to Utah to Las Vegas. Like, I was literally pushed around, and not that the company didn't cover all of my expenses to move, but it was something that like anyone that I talked about was like, we've never heard of that before. Multiple of my employees were like, you were the first black manager I've ever seen, like ever. They're like, we've only heard of one other black manager within the company, and he quit 5 years ago. I understood why, just having to deal with like the different people. My regional, probably,
maybe I just rubbed her the wrong way, but it really just felt like I'm like literally the only black person around you, and everything I do is wrong. To the point where I'm supposed to be a manager and you're having me do
like cook duties, and I don't mind. I mean, like, I'm a manager that I'll do anything if it really is necessary. Like, if everyone's stuck and there is a toilet that needs to be plunged, I'll plunge the toilet because everyone else is busy. Like, I'll get it. Like, I understand. But for me to be waking up at 5:30 in the morning and then not getting off at until midnight, and then having to do that on a daily basis because I had to cover a cook shift on top of learning a manager duty. I'm pretty sure I was burnt out within like the first month. And it took my mom being like, it's okay to come home to like, you don't have to deal with this. This is dumb. And then the only thing that management had to say to me was, I could see that. Like, that was their response to me not wanting to work there anymore. Like, I could see why you wouldn't want to do that. There are technical laws against you doing this, and the only reason why you got around that is because you decided to pay me like the lowest salary possible. I would also say that for all the microaggressions and discriminations that occurred through my career, they occurred in a way that made me understand a lot of other people's struggles, understanding of the people around that I work with a lot of times, because it's easy for a person, regardless, to not really feel heard. And there's so many versions of discrimination that it's not fun. I work with a range of people, and a lot of times nowadays, even though people my age that we started our careers at the same time are a little bit further ahead, like, I was wondering how they got the jobs they have, and in my mind I was like, I know why, because if we were both applying for that job, they would still get that job. I come in, and a lot of times my employees are younger than I am, or I'm the younger person. So I get a lot of, been working here for 20 years, and here you come with your rules and regulations and whatnot. I'm a respectful person. You know, like, I don't care how old you are. The rules are usually unanimous across the board. I've learned that when you rise to the top that quickly, a lot of times those people tend to fall further down because
they didn't have to understand that person or understand what it felt like to be there for 20 years and someone just come in and try to change everything. I'm actually really quiet when I first come to any new place, and I'm like, let's get a lay of the land. Let's see who's in charge. Let's see who's secretly in charge, because there's always one of those. There's always a person that like is not at the job that like they should be promoted. It's really obvious, and it's kind of like, no, if like you want to know something, you go to this person. For some of those people, it's because they don't like the pressure. They don't like being in charge because of that. I'm like,
Give me all the pressure because I should be higher up by now, so give it to me because I need a promotion. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in this position very long. I want to keep moving, and it's bad enough that I have to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then other people are at freaking Z, chilling at the top, not having to try. In this industry, there are programs that help you, but again, not structured to help.
mostly women. I would say like they're not structured to help women.
Even some of my mentors are like, no, they're not structured to help women. In the culinary industry, there's actually a foundation everyone can apply for membership from, and it's called ACF.
They're known to be run on what we call the good old boy system.
It's the who you know that gets you higher in, and they help you with job placement and things like that. Pretty much every woman chef that I have ever come in contact or have learned from was like, yeah, it's cool if you're the young up and coming like Ryan Brown, you're great, you're a freaking rock star. But me, no. Women go in there and pretty much it's women who help women. That's usually the only way. And a lot of my job opportunities did come from other women. Hey, like, I heard of this job, you should apply. I'll speak to them for you. I will get you in the door because no one else is they're not gonna talk for you. I understand how the system works because of that. I was lucky enough to have at least one or two people on my side. They don't always mention that I'm Black.
I know this girl, she's really great. That's the part that they're like, I can deal with a girl. Then going in and being like a Black woman, it's also the stereotypes that go on in their head that I am immediately aggressive. I go in hot-headed, that I snap with sass, for people to always be thrown off. And that is a microaggression in itself, to be thrown off by me just speaking to you and you being like, wow, you are well-spoken. You are very calm. Yes. Yeah. Generally how people are. Generally people don't go just snapping at you. Hey, give me this job. That's not really how that works.
I had to really learn to choke down my anger. For a guy to have to yell the way that I would yell, quote unquote, sometimes, like, people above me go off in a way that I would immediately get fired for. And that I would know that I would get fired for, like right then and there. You can blame it this way or another, but a lot of that is because they expect me to go off like that, like in an instant. She's about to go off, like she's gonna yell, and for me to always have to like stuff down my anger and probably like learn to like choke that down is probably a big thing. I give a lot of credit to the younger generations after me. I saw the change in how we had to mentor, how I have to teach, how I have to manage, especially in an industry like mine where we thrive and die at the same time. Though we are very niche where people are very specific about coming in, we also get abundance of people who don't want to be here. For younger people, where there was a time where I could literally be like, well, I still kind of am. Let me tell you, I'll kick somebody off my floor and like I'll be like, you can go home. That's just my thought about it, is you can just go home. But that's because that's how I was trained. I also came from an environment where literally they will not let you come on the floor if your uniform was like halfway wrinkled. Nails check, hair check, are you chewing gum? And if you weren't perfect, like they would be like, try your luck next time. If you come back here again like that, you're just fired. Now it's a balancing act of being like, okay, like I need you to follow the rules. I'll kick you out and do the job myself, but you also need to know like you need the money, I need you to be here kind of deal. Like there's that conversation that happens in the sense that now my younger employees are like, bunk this, I will leave. For older management, and things like that, it's come to the point where they're kind of like, what? Like, you'll leave? Yeah, I will leave. So it creates this conversation because now you even get younger black females that come into the door and are like, you can't think like you just because I'm look like this doesn't mean I'm gonna act like that. Oh, it's okay, somewhere else. There are also now more companies that are being started with different values, different foundations that are saying we want to be diverse, we want to include everyone, and not outright just assume someone is a type of way. What pretty much all the younger generations learned is that good old boy system it's an old way of thinking that's not good really for anyone. It's not good to be successful in the future. If you alienate, if you assume a lot of times, then you end up with the guy that doesn't know anything, but he's your boss. As my mom and my aunt put it, they find themselves to be a silent generation where they dealt with a lot more discrimination than I did, but they taught me and my brother and my cousins to be more spoken. In turn, you know, we speak to other people and to our younger, like I talk to my younger sister about, you don't have to stand for that. And now we're getting to the point where they're like, nope, no one has to stand for that. These rules need to change. They start investigating, like, why are these people quitting?
Why don't they want to stand? Why did you fire them?
Even to the degree of things like pay discrimination, not wanting that kind of stuff to get out. Now people are finding out and be like, oh, so you decided to pay women $6 less than you do the men for the same job, and she works overtime? Okay, so we're all quitting, we're gonna go over here, and we're gonna blast all of your financials, right? So now it's like this backtrack of covering your tracks and having to adjust, and pretty much forcing these older companies to kind of like change. Right. So social media, in the sense, it's a double-edged sword right then, because at the same time, I could easily not get a job because they looked at my social media, because they saw my picture and was like, no. And you can't prove that because you can't prove that they saw. It's not like you can be like, I want to subpoena their internet browser like right now. But at the same time, when you're already working for an establishment and you feeling as if you're being discriminated against, or, you know, you feel the pressure and you're kind of like, I think something's wrong. Now you could say it, and then you get, oh yeah, I used to work there. They used to do that to me all the time. That's never really happened to me. I have been passed up before, multiple times, not just where I currently work. I have been passed up in the sense of me looking dead and not understanding why. Probably one of the biggest pivotal moves that I decided was when I first decided to quit, and they were, my job actually started to offer me, I was a lead server at the time, and they were gonna offer me dining room manager. The thing was, they originally didn't. They talked about it, but I wasn't even on full-time, but I was working full-time hours. Anytime that they called, I was there. The new food and beverage director, because the other one had quit, he first asked how come I wasn't full-time. He assumed that I was full-time when I was there. He didn't get it. He was like, what do you mean you're not full-time? I was like, I'm part-time. That's how I was hired. You know, kind of like, I'm not understanding why you're shocked. You see our payroll. Like, you could see that I'm not full-time. And he's like, well, I don't really look at that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, not a problem. But when we get to the point where you don't know anything and you're just telling everyone, pretty much, I'm doing overtime training every server that comes in, you choose someone else to be the dining room manager over me, like, that was probably a time that I was kind of like, I probably should quit now. And then when I was like, I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice, they were like, wait. Is there room? How about a raise? And I was like, raise is not enough. Probably should have talked to me, like, before you gave someone else the job. My dining room manager literally would tell the server in training that he just hired, don't ask me anything I don't know. Your best bet is to go ask Camille. And then for me to be paid so much less than what he was getting paid and be there all the time, like putting out fires that he would start. But you guys don't want to even make me just
the assistant manager, like, you don't even want to make me the assistant manager, but you guys want to hire this guy. He doesn't know anything. It hasn't even taken the time to learn.
But it happens to me a lot though, so.
Doing this, the fingers when you start 1, 2, and 3.
I'm just gonna clap.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Hi, my name is Mariela. No, wait, Alissa. No.
Keep going. Just keep
No,
going.
no, 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 no. I'm going to do again. Hi, my name is Mariela. I'm 32 years old. No, Alissa, start again. It's 31. Okay, hi. Okay.
Okay.
This is fucking difficult.
Okay.
You can do it.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Hi, my name is Mariela. I'm 31 years old. I came here when I was 20 and I'm from Guatemala. I came here because my mom left me when I was 6 years old, and then I was 20 and I'm like, I want to see my mom. But when I came here, it's bad. I want to apply for a visa, but I can't, because for to get a visa in Guatemala, you need to prove you have a lot of money, you have land, you have a house, cars, and everything, and I don't have all these things. So I came for the border, and I crossed the border, and I was in Mexico. That's really bad. Like how they try to, and it's a lot of women's, like, how say, las violan. Women get their rape, and that's really bad. I see all these things. This has not happened to me, but it's bad. I see they don't give you food, and I lost a lot of weight. And I have all these bad things pass, and then I crossed the border from Laredo to Texas. And then when I was in Texas, the police get me when the guy was driving too crazy, have 13 people in the car. They stop ours, and the immigration get ours when we was like 15 minutes inside. They put me in the jail with all these people, and then in the jail they have these rooms. This room is really, they put like a proposito, like really cold this room, so you'll be like so cold. They put me for 3 weeks, and then they deportation me, and then I say no, I'm going back. They put me back to Guatemala. They send me in the flight and then in an airplane. They send me to Guatemala, and then I say no, I need to coming back because I need to see my mom. I don't see my mom in 14 years, and I need to see her. Because she live in New York, and she come from this country because she wants a better future for me and my brother, because we really poor in Guatemala. And then I came back again, but this time I made it. With all these bad things, same things happens, but I made it. My marriage with the guy is a citizen, but this is not volume. Like I cannot get the papers from him, because they get me from the first time. They don't want to give me the papers to me. My life in Guatemala is not bad because my mom sends me money every month. The only thing I came here is because I want to see my mom. In this country is worse than Guatemala because they treat people like shit. I came here because I said like I want to see my mom. But my life changed because my life in Guatemala was good because my mom working here, and she sent me money every month for my everything I need. I came here and the life it's good, but at the same time it's bad because I'm immigrant. For the thing I don't have papers, everything is like so racist. Like I cannot do in a lot of things. I feel like I'm in the jail because I cannot have this. I cannot have anything because I don't have papers. Everything is like, you have a social security? And I say, no. So you cannot have anything. I cannot travel. It's really hard for me because now I live in California. All my family live in New York, and I cannot travel. I cannot visit them. It's really hard. And I cannot like get my papers for my situation. They get me in the border, and because that now I cannot get my papers, and I feel really unfair because I don't do nothing wrong. I just come here and they get me, and that's it. So they say like, okay, you cannot have the papers anymore. If I want to be a citizen, the lawyers told me like I need to go to Guatemala, spend 10 years there, and then coming back. But how I'm going to go to Guatemala to spend 10 years when I'm ready, marry here, and I have a husband, I have a baby, is born here, how I can start my life in Guatemala when I have everything here. And the reason like I never applied for the visa, it's because I don't know nothing about this country. And when my aunt say, hey, Mariela, let's go, and then you can see your mom. So I get so excited. And I said, yeah, it's a good idea. I want to see my mom, but nobody told me how it's crossed the border. Nobody speaking about that. Everyone say, oh, let's go to the US, but nobody speak about that. I can get a visa because I'm studying this time. So I can apply for a study visa. So maybe I have the chance to get it. But I never have the chance because my aunt told me, let's go. And because I was 20 years old and you get excited, I get excited because I want to see my mom. I never think about these things. And nobody tell you the bad things to happen to you when you're crossed. Other people need to try to get a visa and then come here like illegal because illegal, it's bad. And I feel like everyone have a chance for go and apply for visa. You can apply for worker visa, like a student visa. Before, I don't know nothing about that. Now I know these things because I looking for that. And I am start to like see, oh, what happened with this. And because I'm thinking like, why I do this when it's more options. But before, when I live in Guatemala, I never do because nobody say nothing about this there. Everyone is like ignorant. So you understand? It's so easy to come here with me. Come here like 12 years ago. It's difficult. All the years pass so easy because you come with 5 kids and say, oh, in Guatemala they want to kill me. You lying. Say, okay, go. That's why all my family is living in New York. Like, you need to be fake and that's it. Because all my family, they don't want to kill them. They have like big houses in Guatemala and everything. They want to come here because they like this country. And now they say, oh, you need a court, and the court, and they're going to give you papers. Brian, for example, you remember Brian? Brian have papers right now. Brenda have papers right now. And I'm like, how is that fair? When I came, you see how hard, and now it's easy. You just cross Mexico and then you cross the border here and say, and when you see the immigration, you say, oh, they want to kill me, get me. The immigration, like, get you. You come to immigration, they get you. And then they put you in the jail and you say, oh, they want to kill me in Guatemala, and that's it. And they never looking like proofs. Okay, prove me. They not ask for that. The guy the guy is like, ¿cómo se dice coyote? Like the guy, the boss. The guy is like, hey, let's go. The guy we pay for that. He tell, if they ask you, they say like, oh, you want to working because you have your mama here in Guatemala, they need money. So that's why I say, when they get me, say, why you're coming here? Because I want to work. Why? Because my mom need money. When my mom's in New York, not in Guatemala. So that's why I'm fucked. But we don't know nothing in this time because we're so ignorant. Ignorant. Now I know everything. But in the past, no, because nobody tell you. It's like if I don't show nothing to Sammy, she's not going to know nothing. You don't have volume because you don't have papers. And then before it's more bad because I don't speak English. But now I speak like a little bit. Before I speak zero, so I feel like I'm not existing in this world, It feels so bad. Sometimes Brennan, the same Latinos is racist with you, because they born here, and if you don't speak English, you're not apart from them. I feel, what I feel? White people, it's more nice to you than Latinos, because the Latinos born here, they looking at you, oh, you don't speak English. My experience, white people, it's more nice to me than Latinos born here.
Sorry. When... Oh, she's loose. Okay.
I think that's
I think it's good.
I think
that's
that's good.
enough to work with.
Oh, this is great. I should have, I should have told my dad before. You could have had the entire Barnett clan
The
tell you,
entire
my entire family tell you about racism.
I'm like,
I'm like,
no, Renan, be in the front to me.
my
It's because I'm not looking at anyone, so I get laughing myself. This is my little baby, and she's going to learn Spanish because she's so cute. Sí. No. Say hi.
Sammy, dice hola.
Dice hola to el público. Dice hola. Little one.
Come on, Sammy.